want to be a successful whitetail hunter and kill your first deer, you have to scout. Scouting is essentially how you will form your deer hunting game plan. So the main goal for scouting is to go from the destination food or water source back to the deer's bedding area. If you can find a whitetail's bedding area and you can find where they're feeding, you can develop an effective game plan to get in there and hunt them. To begin our scouting mission on this property, we're starting here at the destination food source, and we're gonna start working back toward the timber to see if we can locate a bedding area. And right here, we've got a major deer trail coming into the food source from up above us here in the tall grass, and I believe it will extend up into the timber. So we're gonna follow this, look for sign along the way, and try and break down this area to see how the deer are using it. The most likely sign you'll find taking you from the destination to the bedding area are trails. These are the paths of travel that deer take from their bed to the food. If you find some beaten down grass that's about 8 to 12 inches wide, there are deer tracks in it, there are droppings in it, that is definitely a trail that deer are using to get to their destination food source. All right, we're about 200 yards off the food source right now, and we've just been following minor deer trails the whole way up here, and they've kind of converged into this one major trail right here at my feet now. And I spotted a big, what looks to be pretty fresh track in the trail right now. So now that we're a couple hundred yards off the food source, we've got our path to travel. This is definitely a travel corridor. If they're not getting to the food source until later in the evening, this might be a good spot to hunt, but we're gonna follow it up into the timber and see if we can find the bedding area now. If you want to determine if a buck is using a particular trail to a food source, you need to find buck sign. The best kind of buck sign to find along a trail, at least in terms of mapping their travel corridors, is rubs, and specifically rub lines. A rub is sign that a buck makes by taking its head and antlers and rubbing it on a tree. In places with less trees, they also will rub fence posts or even telephone poles to make this sign. If a tree is rubbed on one side, that means a buck is only using that travel corridor during one part of the day. So if you're walking the trail from the bedding area to the food source and it's rubbed on the side of the tree that faces the bedding area, that means the buck is only using that travel corridor in the evening as he's heading to the field to feed. However, if it's rubbed on both sides, that means this is a travel corridor that deer use going to the food source from their bedding area and from the food source back to their bedding area to bed down for most of the day. If you find a cluster of rubs and they form a line or a direction, that is a rub line. That is absolute money when you're scouting for buck sign in the woods. Well, we're about 400 yards above the food plot where we started, and we just found a really good looking rub line. So I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 rubs just from this spot where I'm sitting right now. And in my hand, I've got a bunch of old acorns. And although these are rotted right now and they're not relevant this time of year, what this tells me is the bucks are bedding somewhere where this rub line leads to. They're using this as their travel corridor. And early in the afternoon, most likely, they're on their feet feeding on these acorns before heading out to the food plot. So I'm gonna follow this rub line back into timber, see if I can locate the bedding area. As this sign is getting more dense, keep your eye out for any beds. You can find a bed by finding a place where leaves or grass are pushed down to the ground in the shape of an oval. The best way for you to think about a whitetail bedding area is not that it's a singular location. Rather, a whitetail bedding area is an area of habitat where the deer feel secure and feel comfortable laying down. Those travel corridors that you located while scouting between the bedding area and between the destination food source are the best ambush locations for setting up a tree stand, a blind, and trying to kill your first deer. Well, I'm about 600 yards from the original food plot that we started at, and I've just located my first bed. This is a pretty small bed. I wouldn't say it's a buck bed. It's definitely not the buck that's been making these rubs in here. But this is a good indication that we have found the edge of the bedding area. If we would find the big buck's bed, I would imagine it would be further in. But since we've got more scat on the ground here, more tracks, more trails, a heavy concentration of rubs, I'm very confident to get on my mapping app, mark this as a bedding area, And now we'll start getting ready to hang some trail cameras.